So in order for us to understand hazards characteristic, so we need to understand the frequency, the duration, the onset, and the forewarning. So how often does the um, hazard occur in our area is to be studied fully so that we can somehow um, understand its occurrence in the how often does it visit to your place, gives us the idea on how much are we going to prepare, the duration, how long does it last in a particular area, the speed of onset, the arrival from the time that you know the occurrence and the time that it arrives, and what are the forewarning that um or the time that is giving you or how much time was given in order for you to prepare for the coming of that particular hazard. Now, in order for us to make a hazard assessment in your locality, when you do activity number 2, you have to go to your barangay and then look at the history. I know they have that hazard mapping, they have that um, if you can get their hazard map, that's better. And get the history of what particular hazards are there in the uh, or your community has experienced, and threat. What are the secondary hazards if there are? Like for example, if there are typhoon coming, the secondary threat would be the landslides if there is heavy rainfall or downpour of water. Then probabilities of various intensities. Types of vulnerability, we have the physical, social, and economic, and behavioral or attitudinal. So for the physical vulnerability, um, it refers to the natural, um, the nature. What is the characteristic of the location of your community, for example? In this case, you have there the buildings, infrastructure, and agriculture. Look around you. What do you have there? Like, do you have, because we are in the rural areas, we don't have um, big buildings. However, we have trees, high trees, branches. It could topple down also. Then look at the location. Are you in the steep hill or below the ground of the or at the foot of the mountain where there is the tendency to have a landslide? For social vulnerability, we have um, the kind of attitude of people and the demographic, like the population, the number of population. Compare your Philippines to Singapore. So we have 100, almost 110 million population, way denser than Singapore with a 5 million population. That's why you cannot compare two countries because ours is much populated compared to Singapore. Now, you have a demographic, um, the vulnerable groups. You have there the um, children. You have the pregnant. How much of our population is old age and the like. We have the people with disabilities. Then economic vulnerability, how much losses are there experienced? For example, right now we are in in the middle of a pandemic, and a lot of jobs were lost. You have experienced it also yourself with your family. It has affected the income of your parents. That's why there was difficulty, and even right now we are experiencing also difficulty in face to face conducting face to face classes. That's why economically we are really affected by this type of pandemic. So the potential losses of income of people. Indirect loss, you have the loss of market, the impact, destruction of savings, loss of sequential income, the earning activities, then the loss of opportunity, loss of vital services. So vulnerability factors, we have for tropical cyclones. We have there settlements located in typhoon path, situated in low-lying areas, poor communication, lightweight structure, poor quality materials. Then for flood, um, your location to certain terrain, lack of awareness of flooding hazard, then reduction of absorptive capacity of land, like for example in Metro Manila, in cities, they are prone to floods because their canal system, drainage system is affected by garbages. Lack of drainage system is one, also a non-resistant buildings. Fire, we have congested, very congested areas like in squatters area, no land use planning, inadequate as access road, buildings with no proper fire exit, temperature of the weather, inadequate firefighting equipment, improper electrical line connections like octopus wiring, your extension wire is being connected also with another extension wire, so it's improper. The load, electrical load of one extension wire is doubled by the connecting wire. And then lack of awareness on fire hazard prevention. So factors that contribute to vulnerability of location of settlement. So for example, in you are we like Philippines is located in with within a fault system. So we're expecting that the Philippines would always because of the movement of this fault, the Philippines um, would experience most of the time movement in the underground. So there is always earthquake. Our structure also may not be resistant to ground motion, unlike in Japan where their buildings are earthquake proof. Dense collection of buildings with high occupancy, meaning congested buildings, lack of access to information about earthquake risk. Then volcanic eruptions, we have volcanoes in the Philippines. The most recent that erupted was in Taal, in Batangas. So settlements on the flanks of volcanoes, settlements in the historical path of mud or lava flows, presence of combustible materials, lack of evacuation plan or warning system. Then we have factors that contribute to vulnerability, location of settlements in low-lying coastal regions, lack of tsunami-resistant buildings, lack of timely warning systems and evacuation plans, awareness of public to destructive forces of tsunamis. Drought is drying of our land, so location in arid, dry conditions. Farming on marginal lands, lack of agricultural inputs, and lack of seed reserves. Areas dependent on other weather systems for water resources, so that's why we lack the irrigation system. Areas of low soil moisture retention and lack of recognition and allocation of resources of drought. So why do people live in conditions of vulnerability? Because there's ignorance, limited interest, and a poor ineffective leadership to alter conditions and no alternate options. In short, they have no choice. So that ends my presentation. So I hope you have understood. And please find the activities and the quizzes that I have attached at the end of your lesson. So we are done with Unit 1. We have 3 lessons in Unit 1 that I hope you are going to read and understand. If there are questions, feel free to ask me anytime. Thank you.